Welcome back, nerds. We are your hosts this week. I'm Jake.
And I am Chad.
This week, we are sponsored by Ray's Energy Drinks.
We are also sponsored by Crybaby Craig's Hot Sauce.
This week, we'll be talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi, now streaming on Disney+.
We are also joined this week with Russ Braun.
Oh, so cool.
We're kind of fanboying out about this
awesome
one.
Guy.
This is a big one for us. But we'll get into it later. Let's get into it. This is the All Things Nerd podcast. Oh,
cheers.
I went to cheers the camera because that's how we normally do.
I know, right? Nerd. Welcome back to the All Things Nerd podcast, your weekly dive into all things nerd. So, Jake, what's up?
Oh, well, we're in the same room together.
I know, right?
Which has been a while.
Oh, too long. It's been like 8 months, and that was in a hotel room.
Yeah, your dog bit me. I remember.
And then got a little steamy. Because he gets turned on by dog bites. It's really weird. Told him to leave her alone.
I moved, which is why we didn't do an episode. Was that last week?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are officially back and in the new setup, as you can see. It's set up.
It is set up.
But yeah, so we're here. It's fun. Chad, what about you?
Well, I mean, I helped you move.
You did. You were here for it.
Yeah, I was here for it. I mean, I kind of had to be.
Yeah.
You helped me move from Ohio.
Yeah.
That was way worse.
I had to get you out of that shit state, man.
Yeah.
To this shit state.
Yeah, and we had to get you out of that shit apartment to this wonderful house.
I was like, that's it.
There was a snafu, but it's
somewhat handled.
Being taken care of at some point in time. But also, during our week off,
we watched
Morbius.
A Oscar nod. Morbius.
Oscar nod?
Yeah.
It got an Oscar nod?
No, it did.
I was like, wow. Giving up on the Oscars officially.
So I got my elbow on the table and I'm like shaking my leg and it's like making everything shake. We watched Morbius. It's
not great, Cotton.
I sure do like pumpkins, Cotton. It was not a fantastic movie.
Yeah. I mean, I went into it with very low expectations because of all the reviews. I still didn't really enjoy it. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to, but I also did not really like it. There was some cool parts.
There were some cool parts.
Like the way that they did the echolocation, especially like throughout the city, looked really cool. Some of the other graphics definitely fell a little short.
Well, the weird trails I thought was weird.
Yeah.
Behind everything. Yeah. I don't know how to explain it.
It was like smoke. Like a smoke trail. But
whatever color clothing they were wearing is what color the smoke was.
But even when Michael Morbius wasn't wearing purple, there was still like purple behind him because that's like his color.
But when he was wearing the orange, it was like orange smoke behind it.
Oh,
it
yeah.
It was very strange.
Yeah.
That's about all I got on there.
We're following Thumper's rule of thumb here. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
If you want to watch it, I mean, it's out now to where you can stream it.
Yeah, give it a go.
Don't go in with high expectations, and then you might enjoy it a little bit more.
Fair.
However, something that deserves high expectations that we've been watching, it's not nerdy at all.
Well, I mean...
It has our current collective man crush.
Yeah. If this, again, like Chad said, this isn't a nerdy thing, but we just feel like if you're not watching it, you should probably be watching it.
Yeah, absolutely.
On Hulu, it's called Under the Banner of Heaven. It stars Andrew Garfield, who was Spider-Man at one point.
Yeah, and was also back in the most recent Spider-Man.
Yeah. But this, I mean, the show is so fucking good.
Yeah, it's based like in the 80s in Mormon country, Utah, and it's a murder investigation.
Yeah, it's a thriller. It's like a murder thriller. Get my beer out of sight here, sorry. But yeah,
we don't drink on this podcast.
Go check it out if you're not watching it. It's definitely an honorable mention. You guys should be watching it.
It's very good.
That maybe could be something that we just start doing on here in general, is just pointing out like, hey, go check this out.
Yeah,
it's not nerdy,
stuff
but
that you
check
should
it
be
out.
watching.
Yeah, that'll be our first one. Go watch it.
Go watch it. So Jake, where do we go from here?
You see, we threw me off because we switched it, which was whatever. It's fine. We're gonna go into sponsor number 1, which is, you better keep this in. We're gonna go to sponsor number 1. Even my spit that I just like spit across the table is sponsor number 1 is Raise Energy Drinks. It's a wonderful energy drink with 0 sugar, 0 calories, and 0 crash. They also do some other cool shit. Listen up, we'll tell you more about it.
What's up, nerds? I wanted to take a minute and talk to you about Raise Energy, an incredible energy drink that provides max energy with 0 crash. Raise Energy takes a giant leap of faith with instilling a high-quality formula to bring a powerful, yet sustained, energetic experience to help you push your workouts and focus to the next level. Perfect for anyone at any time, empowered by their Refresh formula technology, Raise Energy delivers a performance-enhancing energy drink that aids in multiple different categories that include targeted focus, better recovery time, improved clean energy levels, and a boost in stamina and hydration. But most importantly, every can of Raise Energy has absolutely 0 calories, 0 sugar, and 0 carbohydrates to give you a smarter and healthier option. So don't settle for an energy drink that contains more sugar and carbohydrates than you can count. Instead, head over to repsports.com. That's REPPSPORTS.com and use the promo code NERDPODCAST at checkout for 15% off your order. Or if you don't know what you want, go ahead and click the link that's in the description to get a $50 sample pack for free. All you do is you cover the cost of shipping. Again, make sure you use promo code NERDPODCAST at checkout to let them know that we sent you.
Welcome back, everyone. This week we have an awesome guest with us. He is known for being one of the artists behind the Boys comic series, has worked on some of your favorite animated Disney films, and so much more. Please welcome Russ Braun. Russ, Thank you so much for joining the show.
Cheers.
And cheers.
Well, I guess first and foremost, tell us a little bit about yourself and, who is Russ Braun?
Well, I'm a comic artist. I've been doing it since 1989, so a little over 30 years. And yeah, I started out right out of school. I went to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan, and one of my teachers was Joe Orlando, who was the vice president up at DC Comics. Really great guy. I'd known him. I'd met him before. He'd written my recommendation to get into school and said, when you're there, make sure to take my class. And so he liked what I did, and he asked me to come up and see if we can get any work from him at DC, and that's when I started out. It was it sounds really easy, but you had to work really hard to get noticed.
Yeah.
So I got up there and started working for DC right out of school, '89.
That's awesome.
We did the first project was called Ford Fairlane. It was a movie prequel comic for the Andrew Dice Clay movie, Ford Fairlane. Not a lot of people remember it or know it, but I just basically was on to design the characters and do some research, and they liked my sketches. They ended up using my pencil sketches for the covers, and then the regular artist on the book left halfway through the project. He had a conflict. Jose Delbo was that guy, and so they said, you want to try penciling? And I was like, all right, Joe, I'll give it a try. I just was always positive. I would say to Joe, okay, Joe, I'll try it. I'll go for it. You had to kind of try and always say yes. And so we had very short deadline. It was going to be like 2 weeks to get the whole comic done, the next one. And so he called in a favor from a friend, Carmine Infantino, who some of you might have heard of. And he Carmine did the rough layouts, and I would get the boards from him and pencil right over them. And we were doing like 3 or 4 pages a day just to get it done. And I was terrified at first because Carmine I'd heard Carmine was really tough and really tough, mean old guy. He's the nicest guy in the world. He was just great to get along with. I got to go see his apartment, his studio at his apartment, just a couple of blocks. This is all in Manhattan, back when the offices were in Manhattan and everybody lived in Manhattan if you were a freelancer. And, so, yeah, Drew Ford Fairlane was inked by Don Heck and Frank Springer. So it was like a who's who of everybody that I grew up with their comic book work from the 60s and 70s, So, yeah, it was a way to start, to say the least.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it only got, crazier from there. And I thought, well, this is the way it's going to be. One of the next jobs I had was drawing Batman. With Jose Luis Garcia Lopez inked it. And he's like another great guy, a real mentor to me doing it. I hadn't really known much about the storytelling aspect of comics, aside from reading it. I was so concerned about the drawings being perfect that I couldn't really get the flow of the story as well as I wanted to. A lot of my characters in the panels, they were like aware of the panel borders. I used to say they'd be hunching because the panel border was going to cut them here. And a lot of times I'd get a drawing I really liked, but it was about like this far over from where I wanted it to be. So there was nothing you could do back then. It's already drawn on the board. I used to cut panels out and draw on another piece of paper and tape it in back because everything else on the page was great except that one panel. So, it's all changed a lot now. But, yeah, so really early on, all the stuff for DC, I got to work with Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Denny O'Neil wrote it. I'll just keep name dropping for the beginning of the whole thing. Right after Batman, there was George Perez, War of the Gods, like this big crossover, like when they were just starting to do, multi-comic crossovers. And it didn't go as well as he was hoping it would. He was also doing Infinity Gauntlet at the same time for Marvel. So everyone was overextended, but I did what I could to get as much of it done for him before I had to leave for an internship at Disney. I went down to Florida and learned how to animate down there while they were working on Beauty and the Beast. I got to draw one frame of Beauty and the Beast. It's not credited, but it was kind of fun to be involved. And so I had to drop out of War of the Gods at that time.
Can you tell us which frame?
It's really hard to find it exactly. It's one of the scenes where it's the Beast, and it's where the Beast has supposedly died, and then you just see his chest rising and falling just a little bit. And I drew one of those frames. Really, just
That's
literally
awesome.
one drawing. It's probably on for two frames of the whole movie. But it was really cool.
Yeah, that's
That's still cool, really cool, though.
So yeah, it was only a couple of months down at Disney to start. That was 91. And then I came back up here and started working, doing stuff for Vertigo. I was kind of like that when Vertigo was just starting. So I was kind of like the fill-in guy at Vertigo. I did Animal Man and Swamp Thing here and there. And it's just, again, this is a time in comics when, early 90s, a lot of really creative people coming into the scene. I got to meet great people through Vertigo. I'd be up at the offices all the time. And because, you're a freelancer, you're working at home. You don't have like a work community. So you got to go find your community. You got to go to the offices and meet people. Back then it'd be like, hey, are you done with that book? I'm like, yeah. They go, you want anything? You got any? You need some work? And those editors would offer you work that way. So it was fun. It was a fun time to be in comics.
Later, you went and worked down in Florida with Disney, right?
So I kept working for DC through the early 90s. I never really got what I wanted out of it. I was doing little things here and there. And so Disney had kept calling since the internship. And finally they said, we need help on a movie. If you came down to do cleanup animation, we know you want to be in the story department. And there's a story training department we're going to start up in Florida if you come down. And I said, okay, you know what? Sure, I'll do that. And, I needed a change. I needed a change of scenery. And a steady job seemed like a nice thing. So I went down, worked on Mulan. That was the first movie. And they were about 30% done with it when I got there. and we had to do 70% in like the rest of that year. So by the second week I was working there, we were doing 6 days a week, and then by the end of the first month, we were doing 7-day weeks just to make up the time. So it's good overtime. I ended up paying off a whole bunch of debts and enjoyed it. And it's such a great movie. I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say it's a fantastic movie. So good job.
It's one of my favorite animated.
I'll take. I joked with them. I said, if you want me to come down and work on this, I have a couple of things that you have to do. First of all, it's got to be called Russ Braun's Mulan, because this is when it was like Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula and all this other stuff. Everyone was putting the name first, and I mean, I had to tell them I was joking. This is HR you're talking to, so creative minds. Sorry, people.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the other thing was that I would go into the story training department as soon as I was, but that never materialized. I ended up down there for about 7 years. Worked on a lot of great movies with a lot of great people. Made some friends for life, and but yeah. So from Mulan, as soon as we finished Mulan, we had what was called downtime. There was no work, but you still got paid as if you were working. And I'm like, as a freelancer, what a great concept. It's kind of like, wait, I didn't draw a page and I got paid for a page. So that didn't last as long as I'd hoped. It would be like, I had only a couple of months, and then they put me on a short film. It was great because I got to draw Goofy. It's like How to Haunt a House with Goofy. Then right from there on to the next project, I worked on everything that came through that studio and never had any more downtime. It was like Mulan, the Goofy short, Tarzan. Ended up drawing like miscellaneous elephants in the background and little apes and crazy stuff like that. But the elephants were like these giant drawings, and the line quality, the line width was something like that thick on some of the elephant's feet.
Yeah.
Really, it was interesting to do. From there, Emperor's New Groove was also one that we helped on while we were ramping up our own film in Florida, and that was a lot of fun to do too. So I drew Cusco Llama and Yzma when she turned into a cat, the Eartha Kit.
Oh, nice.
And so those are some memorable scenes that I got to work on. And then Lilo and Stitch was the next one. That was all Florida's, and that was a really great one to work on. I worked on Jumba, who was the evil scientist who created Stitch, the purple guy with 4 eyes.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We did a couple other things, small things like Little Match Girl. Ended up being in one of the Fantasias after that. And the final one was Brother Bear. And after Brother Bear, they pretty much shut down the whole studio. They let half of us go, and then they closed the whole studio down right after that. Everything went digital. Everything went CG. So, which, to be honest, once when Pixar started doing stuff that had so much life and heart to it, that you didn't need the hand in it as much as, early movies didn't have that kind of like life to it that the hand-drawn animation does. Nothing's going to ever beat Pinocchio, and stuff like that. Everyone's going to try. But the physical act of sitting there drawing the traditional hand-drawn animation is a grueling process. I mean, I think it's worth it. I wouldn't want to do it again. But I picked up a lot of stuff from it that I carried on to comics when I got back, like the line quality stuff, like when I first started doing it, it was like holding my breath to get the lines perfect. Try to do it short and sweet, but you have to kind of like massage the line, make it go where you want it to go, and make it uniquely. Not unique. You have to make it fit with everybody else's drawings. So some people used to say when I told them I worked for Disney, like, "Oh, I know that scene. That you drew that. I could see your drawing." And I'm like, no, you can't, because it was me and like at least 10 other people working on that one part of that one scene. And if you can see my drawings, then I did something wrong, because it's a problem. Flashing like that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
The other fun thing is that at Disney, another guy at the time who was working there ended up becoming a hugely famous comics guy. Phil Noto was working at Disney, doing the same job I was doing. I had no idea he was into comics until like towards the end of my time there. he ended up getting some work. I mean, I'd seen his drawings. He's really an amazing artist. And he came to me one time with like a script asking about like some script direction and what is this? And I'm like, I'm looking at reading this. It was an OTS shot. And I was like, OTS? I'm like, I've never heard of that. I don't know who you work with. We figured out it was over the shoulder, you know, like a 3/4 over the shoulder shot. But it was just kind of a cool thing to have, like, you know, different comic artists would come through, or different like actors and artists and stuff were always coming through the studios. And one time Alex Ross came to visit, and he gave around a sketchbook for everybody to draw in. So I drew like a Batman, because I'd drawn Batman, you know, back when I was in comics. And I was like, oh, well, this will be one of the better ones, you know. And then I flipped through a couple of pages, and there's this Phil Noto, I think he drew Supergirl. And it's this absolutely beautiful drawing, like, I'm like, oh, crap, I should have drawn this. I should have done a better job. But yeah, so then 2004, that was it for Disney. And came back to New York.
All right. So with kind of as a follow-up to that, so when the studio closed, was that kind of like, did that inadvertently force you back into comics, or was that something that you decided that you had missed and wanted to get
absolutely
back
forced me back into comics? I said, what else do I know? You know, and, like, I know how to draw and how to draw comics. And let me see if I'm back in New York, if I have any connections left, you know? I've never been good at the business side of comics, like pushing myself out there. And I hate calling people up and say, hey, you got any work? You know, it's like the worst part of the job for me. I'm not a good hustler at that, because I feel, I don't know, it doesn't feel comfortable to me. It's like if somebody asks me, I'd rather be asked for some help, you know? It's like, hey, we need help on this. Instead of like, you know, it would be great if someone had said, like, hey, you're the perfect guy for this job, and I want you and nobody else. Instead, most of the time, I was always in a position where I'd call them up and say, hey, how's it going? You know, I'm back in town, and I'm looking for work. And go, hey, that's perfect timing. I need someone to do this. And there were a couple of small jobs like that when I first got back. And it was really just getting back in touch with my friends that were in comics that were in New York. And it turns out that Garth had moved to New York in the meantime. I'd seen him once in Florida, actually, when I was down there. He was doing a convention. I went to go visit him when I was down in Florida. But coming back up in 2004, 2005, Garth had moved into the city. And there were a couple of mutual friends. We all got together. And we ended up just going out every Friday night in Manhattan to a bar, a bunch of people gathering and telling stories and just having fun. And different people who were editors or other guys in comics would come and visit. So end up talking to them, and they, you know, look at their work. It's kind of like a mini convention everywhere. You know, I was so hesitant to do anything on his stuff, but especially on The Boys, because it's, you know, creator owned. He owned it with Derek. And it was just like, it's not a win for me to do this, you know. But again, he's my friend, so I was like, when we did ask about The Boys, I was like, all right, I'll see if I can if I can draw the characters, I'll try it. You needed me for one arc, I think, was the idea. And I went home and from the bar and started drawing Butcher over the weekend. And I did like 3 or 4 drawings of Butcher, and they just were terrible. He looked like a linebacker, like he was just and then I drew like a profile of him, and it felt right. It was like he had this look in his face, like just like a little smirk. He's looking up this way. I'm like, yeah, I've got you. And it's like, this is the character. He's 5 steps ahead of everybody at all times. That little subtle smirk on his face. And as soon as I drew that, I was like, got it. I can do this. So I sent the drawings to Garth. He liked it. And I drew the Believe arc. And because the deadline was crazy at the time. It was just like, I guess, I never knew the whole story behind anything. Derek ended up with other commitments he was doing. He was doing some of his own writing and stuff, I think, at the time too. So he was doing other projects and The Boys. And then, you know, it was just, they needed the stuff met on deadlines. You know, again, above my pay grade. You know, it's just like, I just do the work. Give me the work, I'll do it. So it was a 4-issue arc. I enjoyed it, had a blast. And I was going to go, okay, well, see ya. And they said, can you do the next arc? And I said, all right, I'll do that too. And by the time at the end of the second arc, I worked on. I had gotten really sick, ended up with pneumonia, and not just because of working long hours or whatever, but pretty much like finishing up the last issue of it. I was like falling off my stool at the drawing table, and so I said, "There's no way I can do the next arc." But, and I would always ask, "When is Derek coming back?" And I never knew. It's just kind of like they were happy with what was coming out. Stuff was, I mean, comics in general, art in general, but comics especially. It's a business, and they need product on the shelves. I would love to take like a year to draw every comic to make sure that every aspect, every fingernail is perfect on every character. But you got to get it done.
So I want to talk more about the boys. Before I get into the boys, through my, when we interview people, we obviously read about you guys and look you guys up and stuff like that. I'm personally really curious about Jimmy's Bastards. And I'm curious, what can you, because I know it's like it's what's coming out is newer. What can you tell us about it, if anything? Because I thought what I read was very interesting. He's like he's like 007 kind of, right?
Yeah.
But he's like retired. Like, tell us about that a little bit, if you can.
Absolutely. No, so I've worked on a bunch of other projects with Garth after The Boys, even before The Boys. Jimmy's Bastards was the first one that we really got to do a creator-owned project, and it's basically a James Bond spoof, and it's not giving anything away from the first series that we did. It's in the title, is what the story's about. So it's Jimmy Regent, basically a James Bond character, has been doing his super spy thing for 20 odd years, since he's like, a young man, 18, 19 years old, right? So in that time, he's been sleeping around and dropping babies without really knowing or caring about it. So those babies now are grown, young adults. So you figure in the book, they're probably from between 15, 16 to like 25, 26. And they all get together and think, look, let's go get rid of our deadbeat dad. And so his bastard children come back to do him in. And that's like the plot of the first story. So, it was out of Aftershock Comics. We collected it into a hardcover edition at 9 issues. And it was just a lot of fun. It was just, it's very dark humor, it's not for the faint of heart, for sure. I wouldn't say it out-boyses the boys, but like boys out preacher is preacher was the idea for the boys back in the day. But yeah, Jimmy's Bastards is just like tongue-in-cheek fun. It's an equal opportunity offender. It defends people on both sides of the aisle, and we've gotten some grief from it from reviewers or whatever. But it was just if you have a sense of humor and you want a laugh and a fun comic, fun ride, basically see what happens with James Bond trying to fight off his 200 or so illegitimate children.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Jesus.
That sounds amazing.
It's just fun, and if you can take it with that, do it. So then we're doing more now. So it's now Jimmy's Little Bastards will be coming out.
Okay, that's us. Before we started, so when I was reading about it, I saw Jimmy's Little Bastards, and then before we called you, I was like, oh shoot, I don't want to get this wrong. Is it Jimmy's Bastards or Jimmy's Little Bastards? So
you started talking about your experience with the boys a little bit, so I kind of want to switch gears because obviously when this episode airs, it'll be the week that season 3 comes out. So you kind of got into it a little bit, about how you got involved, through Garth and stuff like that. But how? I
felt really bad because I was like, oh man, he just answered Chad's next question.
That's all right. I can definitely elaborate,
But like, so as you got like involved and connected, because you said that you got pretty sick after the second arc, like when that happened, I mean, how much longer did the show go for?
Well,
or the comic run?
God, that was around right after issue 51. I had to take a break. Again, it's a grueling process drawing 20 pages of comics. It was down to 20. It was 22 or 20. It was the normal amount, and but again, the deadline had been so tight right up to the moment when when I got started that I didn't have any breathing room. So, and it just, getting sick, it was in the middle of the winter. It was just, and it ended up being a good thing in a weird way because while I had that time off to recover, John McCrae was drawing the story arc that took place in World War II that kind of gives you more information. So like 52 to 55 was all John McCrae. And then I had a little bit of lead time to develop some stuff because Garth had pretty much written the whole thing. By the time I was working on like issue 60, the whole thing was done. I mean, he'd written all the scripts. So, and so I ended up working on from issue 56 to issue 71. And 72 was the last issue of the book that Derek drew.
So my follow-up question to that is, so I've looked at a lot of your artwork, and obviously you're fantastic. Specifically, I looked at The Boys, and looking at your drawings for The Boys and watching the TV show, a couple of people don't quite add up, and I'm just curious. They're fantastic characters in both settings, but in your drawings, Billy Butcher, no beard. He's a lot bigger than Carl Urban. And Huey does not look anything like Huey in the. So I was just curious what you thought about that. Are you a fan of the casting? Have you even watched it?
No. I love the show. I think the show is amazing. It's really incredible show. There are some things that have changed, like big time. But there are some things that I see on the show. I will answer your question, but there are also some things that are like they step right off the page. Like Homelander. There are scenes in Homelander's there. It's like, holy shit, I drew that. He's doing it like I did it, but 10 times more, Starlight too is like right off the page. So there are moments that are just kind of like, crap, they nailed it,
And those characters are spot on too. It's crazy. Yeah. From the drawings to like actual people that look like your drawings is insane. I was just curious about the couple that I noticed. I was like, they don't look like his drawings. That's super. But the other ones look so spot on. It's crazy.
The changes they made for good reasons. I mean, really early on when I first heard about them doing this, I saw the Butcher thing with the beard, and I'm thinking that's just not Butcher's character. Butcher is like ex-military. He's super clean. He doesn't drink. He's always just drinking water. They don't call it out. You just notice it. He's got to stay the 5 steps ahead of everybody. So he's the mastermind. So I'm like, it doesn't make sense for him to be like shaggy like that and unkempt. But they've changed the character. This is a developing character on the TV show. In the book, he's developed before you even meet him. He's become Butcher. He is like a force of nature, For a TV show, you got to be able to identify with the character. He's got to be vulnerable. And Butcher in the comics is seldom vulnerable. And that's what we love about him, though. We love that he's in control and that he's going to be a real bastard and fuck everybody up, In the show, you got to be able. People who don't know the comics have to be able to identify with that character and feel for him. He's not juiced up on Compound V at the beginning. All the boys in the comics are super powered to start. They're just super durable, tough, and strong, with either a military background or at least some intelligence. And they make all the Supes look like idiots because the Supes don't know what they're doing. The Boys TV show, the Supes are actually pretty capable. I mean, nobody in the Boys comic that's a superhero is worth their weight. They're just terrible. I mean, Butcher with a gun or Butcher just with a crowbar can take almost any of them except, say, Homelander. He's like Superman level.
Yeah.
The rest of them, you never really feel scared for the boys in the comic at any moment. And horrible things did happen to some of them but usually by accident, The TV show has made the superheroes more formidable and dangerous, and it's kind of a fun way to look at it. And it's a different. The showrunner and the writers on the show don't have the same kind of like ideas about superheroes that Garth does. to say Garth's not a big fan of superheroes is kind of a mistake. You know, there are some that he loves, but basically he'd much rather write war stories and not have to worry about like guys in capes and tights. You know, so he treated the supes the way he wanted to treat them, which is kind of like as a joke. You know,
Yeah.
But people first started reading The Boys, they thought of it as just like, oh, this is just toilet humor and, you know, it's just making fun of all the things that we love. But it goes so much deeper than that. I mean, it starts out that way when you think of it that way. But then there's so much heart and so much feeling in the story when it comes right down to the end of it, too. It kind of catches you off guard. I think he does it really, it's really smart the way he did it to like throw people off with that kind of like dark humor satire at the beginning, and then have the story develop in the underneath, kind of like an undertow to the whole thing. So, yeah. But as far as the characters go, I mean, they needed Huey to be like really your way in. He is in the book too, but your way in is a young American guy instead of a young Scottish guy. The fact that they use Simon Pegg as his dad is brilliant. I think it's really cool. But I don't think him having the Scottish accent and looking like he does there wouldn't really have worked to bring in new fans. You know?
Thank you so much for being here. This is like
absolutely. Cool. I'm sorry, I just kind of like talked over everything and.
Oh my God! I'm so glad you did. You have more to say than we do on any of these topics. That's why we're asking questions and letting you go with it. That's what we wanted.
To make sure that your audience is getting their money's worth as far as information goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Russ, as we kind of like near the end of this interview with you, do you have any like final words for fans of comics, of your work, like people that want to get into being artists?
Well,
like,
on that,
any final words?
As far as like, again, if you've got a love for it, a passion for it, telling stories in general. I mean, some people want to grow up and be a filmmaker, so be a director, whatever. But you can do that through comics as a one-man team. You know, you got a story idea. Some drawing ability. You don't have to be, you know, I said that people talk about comic artists and it's just like, this guy is great, this guy sucks. It's like, no, it's a matter of taste, you know? All different kinds of art. You can have like expressionist painters, you can have impressionist painters, you have realists. There's no way to judge between Art Spiegelman and Alex Ross, you know? If the story speaks to you, it speaks to you. So if you have a story in your heart and you want to tell it, you don't have to be the greatest draftsman in the world to tell your story. Just put it out there. And there are more ways to get your stuff out to the world than ever before now with the internet, you know, with web comics, and just do it. And you never know. It could end up being a TV show on Amazon, you know, but
there you go.
But that's the way it goes. It's really just about like, when I see people come up to me at conventions and they show me their artwork and they show me their stuff, it's just like, it's an honor. It's like I get to pass stuff on that was taught to me by the greats in the field that I grew up with. So they might not even know who the hell I am. They might not even care. It's just that this is a guy who's doing it, so I can give you some like hands-on advice as far as like how to, you know, where you can go with what you've got.
Well, Russ,
that's awesome.
Where can fans and hopefully new fans from our podcast, where can they find you?
Oh, well, I've got. That's the other thing I do is like I said, trying to like pass on the inspiration type stuff for comics in general and be like a good ambassador for the whole art form. It's like on social media, I'm on Facebook. I do an image a day. So every day I do a drawing. Either it's something that I'm just drawing or something that I'm working on, something that I've done in the past if I get really lazy. So yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's not hard to find. Just Russ Braun, I think 589, whatever number they gave me. And that's for Facebook and Instagram. And Twitter is Russ Braun too. There's a website too. But yeah, I mean, if you're interested, look the stuff up.
What's the website?
Our website is russ-braun.com.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll make sure we'll tag all this in our notes and stuff. Yeah. So
Again, Russ, thank you so much. Anytime you want to come back, talk about anything else you're working on, maybe with Jimmy's Little Bastards as that comes out, be a blast to have you back. And again, thank you so much, and we can't wait to see what else is coming from you in the future. Holy cow, everyone. That was such a great interview. Russ is such a cool guy.
That was my favorite interview that we've done thus far. No offense to any of our other interviews.
Yeah.
I mean,
we love doing interviews, but he's super cool and just...
I mean, the guy animated for Batman.
Yeah.
And the boys.
And Lilo and Stitch.
Dude, he created the villain, the purple guy. I don't know his name. I'm sorry, Russ.
Yeah, I know. We did the interview a couple days ago, so that name is not at the top of our head. But
holy shit, man! Yeah, he's done so many amazing things in the nerd world, and
super down to earth, super awesome, fun to talk to, and just very, very kind. Oh, now before we have to stop fanboying. But before we get into talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus, we do have to tell you about our second sponsor, which is Crybaby Craig's Hot Sauce. It's a fantastic hot sauce. It goes on damn near everything. It's pickled habanero and garlic. Just listen up. It's great. We'll be right back.
Hey, you nerds. Do you love spice? Supporting small businesses? What about enhancing the flavor of your favorite foods? If you said yes to any of those, our good friends over at Crybaby Craig's have the perfect solution for you. Crybaby Craig's is a pickled habanero and garlic hot sauce that goes perfectly with your favorite foods, adding the perfect amount of spice and enhancing the flavor of everything it touches. Started in Minneapolis by Craig back in 2012, Crybaby Craig's has become a Minneapolis and Minnesota staple in the sauce world. So head over to crybabycraigs.com and order yours today.
All right, friends. We're gonna talk about Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan. It's just called Obi-Wan. Now streaming on Disney Plus. The first 2 episodes are now streaming. Holy shit, they're good.
Sorry, guys. Someone's dog stepped out of me off camera.
Holy fuck.
But
Obi-Wan episodes 1 and 2 pulled together.
Yes, I'm master.
Super good. A little slow on the first episode, but a lot of story to.
Yeah. And it's only going to be, I think, 6 episodes, so
Yeah.
they kind of had to lay a little bit of groundwork. But by the end of the first episode, like,
Yeah, shit starts going down.
saying like a lot.
Yeah, it was actually pretty funny because I'm trying to get my girlfriend into it, and I'm like, let's watch these 2 episodes. If you like it, we'll watch. We'll start from the beginning and get through them. And she agreed, and so I pause it right before like it started, and I'm like, oh, let me give you some context here. You know, this is what happened. I like break it down for her, like just so she knows what's going on. I hit play, and literally the first thing that happens is it breaks everything down that happened between like the last movie and this. And I was like, fucking god damn it. Just mansplaining things. Yeah. It was dumb.
But right off the bat, I mean, we see, well, first off, Ewan McGregor is back as Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is great.
Yeah.
So excited.
Yeah.
But he's very broken.
Yeah.
I mean, this takes place 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that also played Jedi Fallen Order, that happens kind of in between the two. But, so it opens with Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's a space butcher.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's like a giant, like, nurse shark.
Yeah.
That they're space nurse shark. Spinner shark.
In the sand.
In the desert, yeah.
Spinner shark sand.
Oh, the one thing I did want to mention that we mentioned in not Mandalorian,
Book of Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett, they mention the spice.
Yeah.
And then now in Obi-Wan, they mention the Dune Sea, which is cool because they reference Dune again. Yeah. So I thought that was cool. Anyways.
But we also see that Obi-Wan is like periodically checking in on
Young Skywalker.
Yeah, young Luke, growing up with his Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. And he's just like a little 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, sneaks away while doing chores to go play.
Yeah. Pretty irresponsible.
Yeah. Terrible kids.
Yeah. We also get a, I would assume close to the same age, if not the exact same age, Leia. It's
You're
funny
an
because
idiot.
they're twins.
Spoiler alert, damn. Also, spoiler alert, damn.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I saw a lot of people, like, complaining about how, like, tiny the actress playing young Leia is. But literally, she was born in 2012, which makes her 10, which is how old
Didn't
she should
complain
be.
about it, but we did. Nicole and I both were like, she's tiny for 10. That's crazy. But, like, intellectually, like, she's there.
Yeah.
Because I know people who are younger than 10 that are like, I don't want to say a mean word.
Bigger?
Well, I was going to say not intellectually there.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Delayed. Delayed sounds... Is that how you spell Leia?
No, that's a Leia.
Leia! But we also get to see that she's a little force sensitive already. She kind of can sense people's thoughts and like emotions, which is cool because in some of the comics and books, which I don't think many of them are still canon anymore, she does start showing that she's force sensitive very young and kind of shuts herself off from it because she doesn't understand, because she's not around Jedis to train her.
Yeah.
We also get to see the Inquisitorial squad with the Grand Inquisitor, who everyone was complaining that he didn't look as much like the Clone Wars cartoon. It's like, well, yeah, because it's, one, not a cartoon, but he still looks menacing and creepy. And we get to see, like, the second sister and one of the brothers, the seventh brother.
Who looked very familiar. And it took some
IMDb digging.
Yeah, some 10-second digging to find out that it's Han from Fast and the Furious. You know, but they're not Inquisitors. They're family. All right, that was dumb.
It was funnier.
It was funny.
It doesn't seem funny anymore. It's still funny.
Nobody gets anything right now.
I like how you spelled out.
You like the music note? You like the music note at the end?
Oh, guys. Can you tell that we're excited to be back in the same room again? Holy shit. Before we get to that, let's talk about... well, first off, young Leia gets kidnapped at the end of episode 1. And that's what kind of gets Obi-Wan off of Tatooine, is that Senator Organa goes to him and is like...
Reprised.
Yeah.
Role reprised, yeah.
Yep, same actor.
Jimmy Smits.
Is that his name?
Yep.
Okay. So he's back, which is awesome. The only person that is not back, because we didn't really see her in the prequels, was the lady that plays his wife, that plays Mrs. Organa. Because before it was just kind of like an extra, had no lines, had 3 seconds of holding a baby, and then it zoomed in on the baby, and that was it. So, but the actress that plays her is very compelling as well, as trying to like understand that she's raising a child, but also their stature as an important family.
Yep.
But episode 2, we get to see kind of like the... I'm not going to make that comparison. It's a very slummy planet. It looks like Coruscant, where it's just like one giant city, but it's one giant crap hole city. Again, not going to make the comparison.
What was the comparison?
I was going to say just one big Detroit.
Oh. I like it.
Sorry, Detroit. Kind of, not really do better.
Yeah, and Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Is the kidnapper, one of the kidnappers.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
To like see him pop up. Especially because like 2 weeks ago I learned that he did the voice of Donnie in the Wild Thornberries. You know, the kid that... like that's Flea.
Yeah.
And now he's actually like acting.
What was he? He was in something. Was it True Romance?
I don't know.
I Whatever.
threw my phone on the floor earlier.
Makes sense.
Otherwise, I would check. But we find out that supposedly there's a Jedi hiding out in this city that's helping Force-sensitive kids or just refugees escape the slums.
Basically, what's going on right now is they're trying to find any Jedi kids and kill them. Or Jedi in general.
Yeah.
And kill them.
Or turn them to become Inquisitors for the dark side for the Empire.
And our boy Kumail Nanjiani is in it. It's awesome. He's a fake Jedi. He's faking as a Jedi by using magnets and
like remote controls in his gloves, so it looks like he's using the Force to like close windows
and stuff like that. Yeah, it's cool.
Uses a magnet to like pull a microphone into his hand or a communicator.
Yeah, it is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But he seems like a pretty solid character. I hope we get to see more of him.
I hope we get to see more of him, but he also seems like, even though he's being kind of like
a douche.
Yeah, and like sneaky and just lying to people, like he's doing it to help people.
Yeah.
Which is cool. It's a good dynamic to have for an interesting character, because then we get to see where it goes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well,
you take it.
And then from there, Kumail basically is there to help Obi-Wan and Leia get off of this planet. So Obi-Wan tracks Leia to the system so that he can rescue her. She's very skeptical of him. And then she sees like the wanted poster for Obi-Wan and runs away. And they're being chased and shot at, and she eventually trips and falls off a
jumps.
Or she jumps.
She thinks that she can make it.
She can't.
It's kind of like Spider-Man 2 with Toby. I'm back! Oh, my back!
Yeah.
It's that.
But as she's falling, Obi-Wan like reaches for her. She's still falling. And this is kind of when he opens himself back up to the Force to catch her.
Yep.
And then from there, Leia now trusts him because she didn't even think he was a real Jedi.
Yeah.
And it was cool.
It was cool.
Oh, you wanna go from there?
Yeah. So the big cliffhanger-ish.
Oh, yeah.
Is so one of the Inquisitors, or what was her name? What was her name? Sister number two. Yeah. She basically tells Obi-Wan, Ben, if you will, that Anakin is still alive, and Ben, if you will, has a full-on like panic attack.
Yeah.
And
what's cool is I didn't think that we were gonna see
right away at least
Hayden Christensen at all in the first couple episodes, let alone unmasked.
Yeah. In the second episode.
And he's in a bacta-tank, so like he's fully scarred, has like the face mask on so he can breathe, and you hear like the
Didn't it remind you of just going way off topic here. Didn't it remind you of Lex Luthor in Smallville after
a little?
Yeah, like when anyways. back to it.
That's a good reference, though.
Smallville. Watch it.
Even though that came out after Episode 3, so I mean, they probably took it from Star Wars. Who probably took it from Dune.
It was a cool scene, and what really grinds my gears, it was just so expensive, but he was there when we were at Comic-Con.
I know.
The line was ungodly.
Yeah, it was easily 3 times longer than David Harbour's.
And it was like also like 3 times as expensive. And that doesn't mean that we settled for David Harbour, even though we did give him a shirt and he didn't represent us on his Instagram.
Yeah. The people at Comic-Con probably took it from him.
They took it from him in front of our faces.
But we had hopes that he would get it back.
Yeah. He didn't. I don't think they probably went in the trash.
Damn them. It's like $20.
But yeah, the show is fantastic so far. We're only 2 episodes in.
And it comes out on Fridays, so once this episode comes out on Wednesday, you'll have a couple of days to get caught up if you haven't watched it yet.
Oh yeah, spoiler alert.
We kind of got there at the beginning where I was like, when you're like, they're twins, I was like, what? Spoiler alert. By the way, spoiler alert.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, it's new to being back in the same room again. We'll get back in the swing of it. But yeah, guys, it's super great. I know it's not as action-packed or what everyone in the world wanted.
I think it's going to get there,
but
though.
it's so good.
It's going to get there, though. Yeah.
And also, we see that, because in Episode 3, Obi-Wan, like, shoots General Grievous, and he's like, blasters are so uncivilized. And, like, now he carries a gun.
Mm-hmm.
He's just gone. I mean, he moved to the desert of Texas and fully adopted it. Eating raw red meat and carrying a gun. Sorry. Not going to go there.
Keep going. Not going to do it.
I could.
Don't do it.
I'm not going to. All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and close out this episode.
You guys know the spiel. Go check us out on Patreon. We got giveaways, extra bullshit, in between the scenes stuff where we're joking about stuff that we don't air.
Plus the full, like if you enjoyed the interview with Russ this week, on our Patreon there'll be the full unedited episode or interview. Same thing, I guess. So that'll all be there. Pay attention to our Instagram in the coming week or so, because we're going to announce our next live stream where we will be doing the Hot Ones Challenge.
I should have pulled the box out for it. Too late now.
That's fine. We have we're going to be doing the Hot Ones Challenge.
Literally right there, but I'm not getting up.
But we'll also include some Crybaby Craig's hot sauce so you guys can kind of see if you're still on the fence and haven't tried our hot sauce yet. Shame on you, but you'll get to kind of know where it lines up in the terms of spice.
We're also going to have a guest for the Hot Ones Challenge.
Yeah.
My girlfriend. So
she's going to be joining us.
Yeah.
We'll see which one wimps out first, me or her.
Or me.
Or you. You'll just get the hiccups.
I get the hiccups,
Then you'll come back and be like, ready for this. Ah! And I'll be like, wow, was this ketchup? It's really hot. Just kidding. I love spicy food, but I will die.
It's going to be bad.
It's going to hurt.
Anyways, we love you guys. Show us some support if you guys like what we're doing, so we can keep doing it.
Yeah. And we'll see you guys next week. This has been the All Things Nerd Podcast.
Tink.